Well, it seems lately that all the news for the Walt Disney Company is bad. That's very sad, because it did not have to be that way. Disney could have made good decisions that would have resulted in great results. But here we are, this is where we have arrived. When it comes to the Walt Disney World Resort, there are less people arriving, and perhaps the same is true at Disneyland. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what is happening. Why are the crowds collapsing in the middle of summer? We'll chat about it right now. All right, folks, welcome back to another fun and fantastic video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel, where we endeavor to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. It is what we do each and every day here, and if you enjoy that sort of thing, well, you might consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms, it is the little notification bell. Someone who is not little at all is the one and only VashSky, of the Freshly Squeezed podcast over there on Orange Grove 55. Welcome back, sir, to the channel. A pleasure, as always.
Hey, very much a pleasure for me. Honored, humbled. Thank you so much for having me on, talking about some very interesting trends that we are actually seeing in the theme park industry as it relates to Disney.
And you know, here's the quote that I have in my head as we have been covering Disney now, and perhaps we are beginning to reach the apex of how bad it can be. The night is darkest before the dawn. That's what I keep thinking. I don't want to overplay the seriousness of the situation, but I simply want to say that this company has hit bottom on so many areas that it would take a madman to continue pursuing what they have done, and perhaps it's the pivot point. I hope so. What we're talking about today is the situation that Disney has with their parks. We'll start with WDWMagic.com, my old stomping grounds. And it says, Walt Disney World Genie Plus drops to lowest price since per park pricing was introduced. Now, Genie Plus is essentially the once free Fast Pass system transplanted and transformed into lightning lanes, with Genie Plus as the app that allows you to use these things. And as we have done studies on this on thatparkplace.com, a website that I write for, usually this little app and these little features are not worth your while. They're not worth the money unless you're in an extremely crowded situation. But that's not happening, and the prices for Genie Plus are largely connected with the anticipated crowd levels of the parks. So when we're looking at the lowest prices since the introduction of the app, well, that's a problem. Now, of course, this only goes back to since they have created this per park pricing system. And We'll talk about that in just a moment, but here's what the article says. Disney Genie Plus at Walt Disney World is at its lowest price today since the introduction of per-park pricing on June 27th. Today's multi-park Genie Plus price is $23, with Disney's Animal Kingdom at $15, Epcot at $17, Studios at $21, and Magic Kingdom at $23. And what do we see? Well, this is opening up Disney to the sort of ability to observe crowd levels that maybe they did not hope to have. And what I mean by this, Vash, is we have known that Magic Kingdom remains crowded. The damage that is happening, apparently, to Walt Disney World as a result of the company's decisions is that their other theme parks are significantly more sparse. Animal Kingdom only charged at $15, Epcot at $17. That's because the crowd levels are not there to drive those prices more and more ahead for Genie Plus. It says, beginning June 27, 2023, Disney expanded Genie Plus to allow guests to select Genie Plus as a single park or multi-park option. Prices vary by park and date. The multi-park option is the most expensive and operates like the original Disney Plus option, allowing guests to use Genie Plus at any park they visit on that day. Now, Vash, here's what I think is happening, then I'll hand it over to you.
Please.
I think that Disney made this decision because they want to use the Magic Kingdom as the barometer for the multi-pass. Okay, so for your park hopping, they want to use Magic Kingdom as the barometer, but in order to do so, to inflate those prices, they needed to have some sort of counteracting PR system, and that was to do the per park system where Animal Kingdom and Epcot, you're not paying as much, but they're hoping for people to be paying those Magic Kingdom prices far more often. Yep. So, Vash, the really interesting thing about this, though, is prices are down, and we just finished Independence Day week.
Yeah.
This should be one of the, not only the hottest temperature-wise, but hottest crowd level-wise times of the year. Why
Oh,
are the crowds not there?
That's what we're all trying to find out here, and it's actually been this way for a while, which I'll explain in a moment. But it was really startling to see vloggers, let's say, document their times at these parks on like July 3rd, July 4th, and see the parks as empty as they were. It was very, very shocking. I'm not shocked at all about these prices being reduced the way they are, as is listed in this report, because, well, I mean, it's all demand-based. Everything Disney does is demand-based. So if demand is dropping off attendance-wise, well, what's the point of getting Genie Plus when the lines are going to be much lower than what we'd normally expect from a place like Walt Disney World? So as such, well, they have to lower the price because demand has dropped off the way it has. But to have like a $15 price tag associated with it. I mean, we're talking. What was Disneyland's equivalent of it? It was Max Pass. I think those are Max Pass prices right there. I mean, that's pretty insane. And with the variable pricing model, I believe. I mean, since Magic Kingdom is so much more attended than any of the other parks at Walt Disney World. I think they just wanted to have, like you said, a baseline for that park Genie Plus offer right there. But even that is pretty low,
right, the park
compared to what
pass.
It's been. Yeah.
So Vash, let me ask you this: you guys cover the West Coast significantly.
Yes.
Are we seeing this in Disneyland as well? What's happening? Is this just a Florida problem?
Well, this is very interesting, Pro. I actually have some numbers for you, as provided by TEA, or the Themed Entertainment Association. They actually recently just published a report for 2022, going into all the attendance figures that they have generated as associated with all these parks. And it's interesting because if you compare 2019 to 2022, 2019 was a banger year, that attendance has fallen off starting in 2020, and then it has slowly rebounded. But for the Disneyland parks, as when comparing 2019 to 2022, you're looking at about a 90% rebound for Disneyland, right? So you had 18.6 million people attend Disneyland in 2019 versus 16.8 million people attending in 2022. DCA about 91%, right? So they've rebounded quite well, and even the Universal parks out there in Florida and in California have rebounded quite well. In fact, Universal Studios Florida, you're looking at a 98% rebound. So 10 million people in 2019 versus, about 10 million people in 2020. It's about a 0.2 difference there. Islands of Adventure is really startling because you have 11 million people in 2022, 10.3 in 2019. So they've actually gone up a 6.8% increase from their 2019 levels, which is startling. You have about a 92% rebound for Hollywood as well. But here's where it gets really interesting, Pro. I know your viewers are going to love this. If you look at Walt Disney World, Disney's Hollywood Studios, you have a 95% rebound, which is good. You have a lot of new attractions out there. You have a lot of demand going out there. That's great. But when you look at the other parks, check this out. Magic Kingdom had 20 million visitors in 2019 versus 17 million visitors in 2022. That's an 81% rebound. Disney's Animal Kingdom, 13 million attendees in 2019 versus 9 million in 2022. That's a 65% rebound. And Epcot, an 80% rebound. They are the only parks of these major corporations that have had rebounds that low. Even Disneyland out in California hasn't had a rebound that low. So that is really, really startling when you get into these numbers here.
That is very startling. I go back to the idea that Disney has been using this artificial capacity limit they've put on the parks, and they've done so under the guise that they're attempting to improve the guest experience. The problem there, of course, is that Universal Studios is not doing that. Guest experience is higher, I would assume, based on the numbers, than Disney. People don't seem to have a problem at all with going to Universal Studios. And now we've got Bob Iger coming out in the most recent reports, last couple of days, admitting that the prices for visiting Disney parks are too high. They're out of control. And so, you can't have both of those, right? You can't be at a system where you're saying, well, we're at max capacity with these artificial capacity limits we've used,
Right.
and we've raised prices and we've put these capacity limits in place in order to improve the overall experience. Oh, and by the way, we're charging too much. Like somewhere, it's incongruent. So I get the corporate speak, but it does seem that now they're realizing they've got a real issue. I think the box office is also hurting Disney in a way that perhaps we have not fully explained yet. But the box office is sort of the engine that drives all of the interest. So from the box office, you create all this new content. That content then gets filtered onto Disney Plus. That drives more subscribers. That also generates new secondary and tertiary shows, often featuring those same characters. That drives more interest. All of that drives merchandise. All of that drives interest in going to see the parks. And that is not happening. Disney World, of course, is the international side of what Disney does in terms of parks. You might think of Disneyland as being more local. You might think of each of the international parks, Disneyland Paris, Disney in Tokyo, all of those places sort of cater to their regions. But Disney World, it's for the world. And when you go, you usually are battling against throngs of Brazilian tour groups. And you hear accents of every single variety and dialect across the world. That's not happening now. And I worry that Disney actually damaged their brand, not only at the box office, not only with what they've done with divisive content, but also following the pandemic when we saw such significant cuts in quality for Disney World. I worry that international guests flooded that time span, wishing to bring their families to go back to normalcy and have some fun outdoors and, recover from what they had just been through. And that when they went back to their nations, to their homes, to their communities, and including Americans, by the way, as well, and North Americans, but when people went back home, they said, that wasn't the same anymore. I didn't have the same fun that we had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I worry that that's done some damage. Vash, what do you think?
I absolutely believe that. I mean, there is, I think, a consumer withdrawal happening from Disney right now. I believe it was Valiant Renegade who actually said, Disney used to have this kind of built-in 20%, right? Where it's like, no matter what they produce, 20% of the audience being Disney fans is going to actually support it. And, I was very critical of Disney's let's say, positions or decisions, right, over the last few years. And I said, with these economic circumstances that we might be facing here, it's going to be tough to support a company like Disney when, I guess when you keep pushing people away, kind of thing, right? Who's going to be there to support you on that end?
Think about it this way, Vash. This channel, people might want to accuse this channel of being partisan in some way. Now, we're very, very careful to never be partisan here. But think about it this way. Imagine for a moment that Disney decided that they wanted to be in contention with Gavin Newsom in California. Right. My advice would be, this is a horrible idea. This will put you into the political arena. This will damage your company. You will alienate half the audience no matter what you do. That's the same advice that I give Disney when it comes to Florida. You do not want to be in tension with the conservatives that govern the state of Florida. There is no decision you can make in the political arena that will not drive away half of your audience. Yeah. It is a horrible, horrible decision to make. Companies should flee that kind of a decision, or at least it should be the very last option on the table. And yet Disney embraced it in one of the most contentious and volatile situations you could imagine, i.e. the education of small children by the state and what will be taught there in regards to bedroom issues. That just ensured absolute chaos. And here we are. We are in the absolute chaos. But I don't want to just be negative. There are those who want to see Disney completely fail, and they take joy in it all the way. I'm not there. And the reason I'm not there, even if that disappoints some out there, is because I believe in redemption. And I want this company to redeem itself somehow, some way, whatever it takes. If it takes them, going down to ashes before they are willing to recant and recover to what they once were. I want this company to be something positive in the world. And I think that it behooves us all to hope that people and groups of people and companies can redeem themselves. So let's talk about what Disney could do to begin recovering from this situation, Vash. What in the world could this company do to bring back the audiences, and perhaps even those who are listening right now shaking their head no, as I've said that? What could they do to begin to make inroads with those people who have said, Disney has done such damage, I will never support them again? What can Disney possibly do?
You have to. I would say, man, this is it's going to be challenging because their political positions are very deeply entrenched in their culture and into their decision making process and so forth. I think the first thing that you'd have to do is you look at it from a creative standpoint and go, okay, who do we have to switch out here? I mean, obviously we have underperformers in that arena already with Pete Docter and Kathleen Kennedy and all those, folks that we talk about so frequently. But it's like, okay, we got to sub these people out with people who are, I don't know, who can create product that appeals to the widest demo possible, right? And you have to kind of translate that to your theme park product as well. No more of these kind of Splash Mountain attractions, right? Or even Mystery of the Nautilus type of attraction redos that we have in Disneyland Paris, where they're taking out the giant squid and they're putting in like whales and dolphins because, it's a more conservationist message or whatever. Stop that. Just stop. You got to get back to basics here. You have to get back to appealing towards a 4-quadrant audience, right? If you're going to have a film, let's say, for example, and it's going to be budgeted for a 4-quadrant audience, well, it has to appeal to that 4-quadrant audience. You can't provide an art house filmmaker a $200 million budget and say, go out and make something. I got to bring up a name. I mean, John Lasseter, right? John Lasseter had a very keen insight into what translated to a mass market demo, and I believe even Matt Bellany from Puck even said that, included this in his article when talking about Pixar. It's like you need someone there, I think, to provide that outreach, because right now, I mean, they're very insulated. And it's a very kind of California mindset, but it doesn't necessarily translate to Middle America. It doesn't translate to, certain demos that they would obviously appreciate the business from right now. So that, I think that's where you kind of start. And can we get, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back into the parks? Can we do like little tiny
what a horrible
things?
Decision.
Right.
Oh my gosh, Vesh, the damage that did. Yes. So I had a thought. But you have just defeated my thought in terms of relevance, because that goes to the forefront. Get rid of this stupid
linguistic
neutral
nonsense.
Language that has cult-like effect on the parks, right? Where the cast members can no longer say, sir, ma'am. They can no longer say, excuse me, little boy, are you lost? They can't say any of this stuff, and they're left saying like friend and pal. And you hear it over and over to the point that you just say, what kind of weird thing have I stepped into? But yeah. So I'm fully on board with that. We need to go back to ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and now the magic, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But another thing I would do, and we'll read an article in just a moment that sort of relays how bad things are getting. But
Please.
Disney has got, in my opinion, to get rid of the Genie Plus. And I'll tell you why. And it's going to hurt them. It would hurt them temporarily in terms of stockholders saying, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah, the shareholders were not going to like that, but I want to hear it.
No, they won't. But I'm going to tell you why. It's because Disney has created a perception in their parks that you are going to be nickeled and dimed. That used to be the purview of other parks around the world.
Yeah,
this was a free service that was provided. It made everybody in the park, regardless of your economic status, feel that you were someone who was greatly appreciated the minute you walked through the turnstiles. Right. They have switched that now so that your level of economic income and socioeconomic status in the world determines the amount of rides you get to ride. That's a problem. I'll tell you another thing, Vash, they need to do. They need to put their mouth where their money is, their money where their mouth is. This needs to come into lockstep. They want to go out there and they want to virtue signal to the heavens. They want to redo these various rides so that they are supposedly uh, reflective of their guests. And at the same time, they price out so many of their guests. But a way they could get around that, and Disney, come on, this is actually something I think everybody out there could get behind. You have a youth education series program that pulls in schools and classes from all over the world that come and partake in educational activities at Walt Disney World. And then they also get to enjoy the parks. Disney, you could begin giving away vast amounts of youth educational series programs for free to schools, not based particularly on race, but based particularly on socioeconomic status and other burdens that these students have to overcome. That way it's not based on immutable differences, but rather it is something that goes out to all children of the world, of every background, who need that lift. The kids out there going to school who they will never go to Disney World. Their families are nowhere even close. But if you did that, Disney, where you began giving away to vast numbers of school systems this youth education series program, then you could also pull in these kids during these slow times of the year, which now are more and more frequent. And that, Disney, would convince me that you actually cared about kids of all different colors and all different economic backgrounds, rather than just the corporate press releases and the meaningless, vapid decisions you make for the parks, i.e., retrofitting these attractions so that it fits your glorious vision of the future. Vash, am I off on any of that?
No, I don't think you're off on any of that. I think that kind of public outreach kind of thing on a kind of national scale, I think would be very beneficial. We've seen a little bit of that locally from, like, let's say Orange County in California and the surrounding areas of Walt Disney World, but we've never seen that kind of nationally. So that kind of big public outreach, I think, would be extremely beneficial. Not only that, but when you look at Walt Disney World and what things could change there to kind of, bring people in, I think one of the things you got to look at is which industry in tourism is doing very well. It's cruise line, and I think you said it right there, Pro. When you're looking at value, right? What's the value perception around Walt Disney World right now? Well, like you said, it is nickel and diming. So can we bring back an all-inclusive nature for these parks? They're already doing that, I think, a little bit with the Disney Dining program. They're supposed to be bringing that back in 2024 in January, but I think they can go a couple steps further. Magical Express was an amazing service, and really did lead people, point. Right? Lead people to that kind of value perception that everything that I was doing for a Walt Disney World vacation was included or inclusive.
Run the trams at all the parking lots. Good
exactly.
Lord! Now that you start talking about this stuff, what has happened to this company that they have lost their way? Yes, Disney. Yes, entertainment studios out there. You do need to offer value to everybody along the political spectrum. You don't have to get the nut jobs, okay? Let's say that society has 5% of nut jobs on the left and they have 5% of nut jobs on the right. You don't have to aim for those people. They're not coming to your parks anyway.
No.
But aim for the middle 80%. I know those numbers don't line up exactly, but just aim for the middle 80. You can't operate when you are just promoting product that makes 30% of your population happy. That's nuttery. And then you can't invite people to your parks, let's say Animal Kingdom, and say, oh, 75-year-old grandmother, please, finance and bring your family to Animal Kingdom. And when you get here, in the scorching hot sun or in the monsoon that has arrived, we're not going to send trams to pick you up. Like this company used to go to, above and beyond to make people feel welcome.
Correct.
What happened? How did they miss this?
It's bizarre, and that perception out there, you're 100% correct, Pero. I mean, when you look at the demos that have really fallen off, one of the big ones is kind of that elderly visitor, right? The 75-year-old grandmother who is financing the whole trip for their entire family to Walt Disney World. That's dropped off a cliff, and the revenue potential from that is devastating for this actual company. It's insane how many decisions that they made. Yeah,
it's like they're aiming for 20-something childless bloggers. That is not your demographic. That is like 1%, maybe, of who's coming through your turnstiles.
The revenue as generated from like let's say a Disney adult if we want to call them that. But a single person, right? Just walking in the door, or maybe even a couple walking in the door, is so radically different by leaps and bounds compared to that family. When it comes to merch sales, food sales, all that, it is astounding. And why they would try to placate a more social media inclined crowd over the family is absolutely bizarre. It makes no sense in any reality. But here we are. We've seen years and years of it.
It is nuts. I hope that Disney will get back to what works. Let's take a look now at just what a situation they're in, and then we'll talk tomorrow. Actually, Vash, you will be back on the channel, but
Yes.
with more of the Orange Grove 55 crew. We are going to talk about what Disney is actually getting right, because even I have my limits on how much negative news I can cover, and that's all that Disney has given me. That's all they're giving me right now. But I'm going to try to find what is working inside the company. Like, what is something that they could actually point to and say, this is our North Star. We're going to aim for this now because it's working. You brought up the cruise lines. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But folks, until we get there, here's what we have out of CinemaBlend by Jessica Rowden. As crowds thin as the Disney World bubble bursting, it's the most magical, hottest place on earth. Disney World has seen intense wait times and crowds in the post-pandemic era, and in recent months, Disney World in particular has made headlines for long wait times and frequently crowded parks, which is why this week has been such a surprise for the house the creator of the mouse built, but not for any of you who watch this channel. 4th of July crowds at Walt Disney World just hit a record for sure, just not the positive kind. So apparently crowds were down at the Magic Kingdom and other Disney World parks in Orlando during the 4th of July holiday. This is despite the U.S. Air Force conducting flyovers. It's also despite a magnificent nightly fireworks display in the parks that hits a little harder on the 4th and continues to go on and on. But essentially what this comes down to is that, yes, the average crowd levels are down. It says here, Blog Mickey shared a graph showing that rides only averaged a 24-minute wait on the holiday. Jeez. Folks, if you want to know how bad it is, check it out this week. Continuing a trend that had started in the spring when the outlet first noticed attendance began dropping in the parks. Over the last couple of months, Disney crowds have slowly been dropping, and economic downturns in general may explain why the 4th was not a great day for theme parks. However, I'd be willing to hedge it's never just one thing or another. Vash, here's the problem. It's not been bad at all for Universal Studios. Universal Studios is seeing none of this. Zero, nada. They're having great times.
Well, that's what I was just about to reemphasize that point again. I mean, when you compare the 2019 numbers to the 2022 numbers, Universal has rebounded plus 90%, and in some cases has eclipsed their 2019 figures. Walt Disney World and the 3 parks, Magic Kingdom, Disney Cinema Kingdom, and Epcot, are the only ones in the 80s or below. The only ones from the major theme park proprietors. Hell, even Knott's Berry Farm out there in California has seen a 92% jump. I mean, there's no reason at all that these parks should be underperforming, and yet here we are.
Here we are. Well, you know, at some point we need to talk about why these parks are worth saving and why we want them to be some of the greatest things in the world. We really do. I mean, I think the value is through the roof if these parks are ran correctly. I don't mean that just in terms of, you know, where you can vacation, or I don't mean that in terms of how much the parks, you know, make in monetarily. I mean it culturally.
Yeah.
I mean that Walt Disney was a man who did magnificent, amazing things, and his life should be celebrated. And his crowning achievements are not necessarily the movies that he made. It's the parks he created. And those parks, based on a premise of taking your child somewhere that was clean and that would allow children of all ages to play and enjoy, a full day within their imagination, escape the real world. Those are things that I think we should do everything in our power to preserve. I hate that the company is in a time right now where it is led by morons and has been led by people who have sent it down a path of destruction and chaos. And I hate that there's been a media establishment and access media that's been built all around the idea of dismissing that for years until, no, it actually happened. The crash is here. We're in it. Now, though, somehow adults have to come back in charge and fix this. I don't know if Iger can be an adult. Iger was part of putting us where we are. But whoever is going to fix this, we need to begin casting the vision. Because if we don't, then the same lamestream media will continue to give us all kinds of ideas and reasons for what can happen to change the parks and fix them. And they're the same dolts who put us here in the first place. I hate to be negative, but I'm tired of covering the negative news for Disney. I'm ready for this company to change its ways. I'm ready for the prodigal son moment where this company realizes that it's tired of laying with the pigs and it's ready to come home to the traditional universal truths that made it a great company. And it could be once more, but it's got to flush out the bad actors. Vash, final thoughts on what we've read and seen. Vash, you're muted, sir. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I do apologize. But I think the best thing I could even say to that and respond to that is all the executives go back to Disneyland, look at that brass plaque right there in Town Square, that dedication speech. It says it all. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it'll be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. I think that is absolutely profound. I think it has been a source of joy and inspiration for millions and millions and millions of people all over the world, not just Disneyland, but all their theme parks. And so I do agree with you. In the cultural zeitgeist, they are very, very important pieces of American culture. They're the things that we aspire to be. They're the best representation of us, and to I think to have them still remain and represent those ideals, those beliefs, and so forth, I think is very crucial and very profound. So I do appreciate you having me on and talking about this, and I fully 100% agree with you, Pro. Thank you.
Vash, where can we find you on this great, big, beautiful web?
The best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. It's right down there. Just go ahead, type that in, and it should pop up. And the best place to see me is going to be on YouTube. So it's going to be my show, Freshly Squeezed, on the Orange Grove 55 channel, your source for juice, news, and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Love that sound. Folks, it is not enough for us to enjoy the fruition of what we've been predicting for years. Yes, you should take a victory lap because you accurately predicted what the future held if this company continued down the path it was on. So fine, have the victory. But then we have to cast a vision for what we want to see in the future. Otherwise, we just leave these companies in rubble. And that's not a future that we want to be in. These companies don't belong to the nut jobs who have destroyed them. They belong to us. They belong to us because they belong to the free market, and we are the free market. And it's time for us to cast the vision for what is a better tomorrow. What do we want our children and grandchildren to enjoy? And I have a bit of advice for the people at the top levels of Disney. I want you to go find families who don't care a single bit about who you are. Somebody from Oklahoma, somebody from Idaho, somebody from Maine. Grandmothers, grandfathers, uncles and aunts, moms and dads taking their kids to Disney, and go spend 3 or 4 days with them. Go to the parks with them. Listen to them. Find out what is the experience, and fix whatever is not working, and stop messing with things that are. That would be at least the baseline. Stop messing with the things that actually work, because getting something to work at that level is not at all easy, and you are not guaranteed that you can replicate it whatsoever. The magic is magic for a reason. Honor it. All right, folks, that is the end of this video. The conversation here comes to a close, but the commentary begins right now. Drop a comment down below. Let us know. Are you willing to be a part of a vision to rebuild Disney under hopefully new people who have a new vision that aligns better with what all you want? Or are you done forever? Are you gone for good? Do you want Disney to go the Sears route? That is an option, but I'm not sure that it's an option that will bring the most goodness in this world. But I leave the door open. I am persuadable at this point. I'm sure Vash is as well. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Cuz you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?